Today we're diving into H.G. Wells's classic Footprints Without Feet. Now, this is more than just a sci-fi story. It really gets into what happens when amazing scientific power gets into the hands of a not-so-great guy. We're going to follow the story of Griffin, a scientist who figures out how to become invisible, and how that discovery sends him down a really dark path. It all boils down to one creepy question: if nobody could see you, who would you really be? Let's get into it.
So, where does our story kick off? Not in some fancy lab with bubbling beakers. Nope, it starts on a normal, muddy street right in the middle of London. And it's here that two boys see something that's just completely impossible. It's the beginning of a mystery that just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, seriously, have you ever seen footprints without any feet making them? It sounds like a riddle, right? But for these two boys on a London street, it's actually happening right in front of them. You can just imagine them, a mix of scared and totally fascinated, as these muddy prints just appear out of thin air. This is what pulls us right into the story from the very start.
What's so great about this scene is just how confused everyone is. The boys are just frozen, staring at these fresh, muddy footprints that are literally materializing on the steps of a house. They can't help it. They have to follow them. It's just too weird not to. They track the prints down the street, watching them get fainter and fainter, until, poof, they're gone. So the big question is, where did they come from? And even scarier, where did the person making them go?
So, what's the deal with these phantom footprints? Well, the answer is somehow both really simple and totally mind-blowing. The boys weren't chasing some ghost. They were actually following a man, a scientist, one who had done the impossible and made himself completely invisible. It's time to meet the guy behind the mystery.
And here he is, Griffin. This guy is the heart of our story. He's a genius, no doubt about it. He figured out a secret of the universe. But here's the catch. The story tells us right away that he's a lawless person. His incredible mind isn't matched with any kind of moral compass. And that's the real tragedy here. This amazing power is in the hands of someone who doesn't care about the rules, and it might just be the very thing that destroys him.
So how did this brilliant guy end up as a set of muddy footprints on a London street? Well, it was a pretty quick downward spiral. After tons of experiments, Griffin finally cracks it. He drinks this mix of rare drugs, and his body becomes as clear as a sheet of glass. But his personal life was a total disaster. His landlord wanted to kick him out, so in a fit of rage, Griffin sets the guy's house on fire. To get away without being caught, he has to rip off all his clothes. And just like that, he's invisible, but also homeless, broke, and totally alone.
And this brings us to his first big problem. I mean, being invisible sounds pretty cool, right? But being invisible and naked in the dead of a London winter? Yeah, not so much. His incredible discovery immediately turns into a desperate fight just to stay alive. The dream of having ultimate power is quickly becoming a total nightmare.
That freezing winter air is a huge reality check. Griffin is literally freezing to death. His survival instincts kick in, and he finds a big department store. He manages to slip inside right as they're closing up for the night. For a little while, it's perfect. He grabs an overcoat, a hat, shoes, finally gets warm. He eats cold meat and sweets, drinks some wine from the grocery section. For the first time he's warm, he's fed, and because he's wearing clothes, he's visible again.
But of course, this little piece of heaven doesn't last long. He finds a pile of quilts and falls fast asleep. The problem, he sleeps in. The next morning, the store workers show up and they see him. Total panic. He has to run for it. And the only way to escape is to do the one thing he doesn't want to do: take off all his warm new clothes. He's chased through the store, shedding every single item until he's invisible again, and then he's thrown back out into the freezing cold air.
In this right here, this frantic escape perfectly shows the massive problem he can't get away from. To be warm and safe, he has to wear clothes. But if he wears clothes, people can see him and catch him. To use his power and escape, he has to be invisible. But that means being naked, freezing, and totally vulnerable. It's this constant, awful choice between safety and freedom.
Okay, so now he's really desperate. He heads to an area called Drury Lane, London's theater district, a place full of costumes and disguises. Perfect, right? He finds a theatrical supplies shop. While he's invisible, he puts together a new look for himself. He wraps his head in bandages, puts on dark glasses, a big fake nose, and a hat. Now he looks normal enough to walk around. But he's got no money. So he does the next logical thing for him. He attacks the shopkeeper from behind and steals all his cash. His slide from brilliant scientist to violent criminal is happening fast.
All right, so what's Griffin's next move? He decides he needs to get away from all the people in London. He needs a quiet place to figure out how to reverse this whole invisibility thing. So he takes a train to this tiny, sleepy village called Iping and checks into the local inn. But his plan for a quiet getaway completely backfires. Showing up in the middle of winter looking like he doesn't make him blend in. It makes him the #1 topic of village gossip.
The innkeeper's wife, a friendly woman named Mrs. Hall, is, naturally curious about this strange guest. She tries to be nice, make a little conversation, but Griffin just shuts her down flat with these words. He's grumpy, he's secretive, and he just wants to be left alone. Mrs. Hall puts up with it. I mean, he did pay in advance, but his weird behavior has the whole village whispering.
That stolen money doesn't last forever. Pretty soon, Griffin tells Mrs. Hall he's out of cash. But then, very early the next morning, something super weird happens just down the road. The local clergyman and his wife wake up to strange noises. They hear the sound of money being taken from their desk. The clergyman runs in with a fireplace poker, yells, "Surrender!" and the room is totally empty. And yet the desk is open and all their money is gone.
And things are about to get even weirder back at the inn. Later that same morning, Mr. and Mrs. Hall notice Griffin's door is wide open, which is strange because he always keeps it locked. They peek inside and see his clothes and bandages are everywhere, but he's gone. As they're standing there, they hear a sniff right next to their ear. A second later, the hat on the bedpost flies up and smacks Mrs. Hall in the face. Then, the chair in the room just comes to life, charges at them, and pushes them out before slamming the door shut. They are completely terrified and convinced the room is haunted.
So you've got this burglary in an empty room, you've got flying furniture, all these crazy, unexplainable things. And pretty soon, everyone starts pointing their finger at one person, the weird, secretive guest at the inn. The villagers' fear and suspicion finally boil over, and it leads to a pretty shocking showdown.
Once word gets around about the burglary, everyone is sure the strange scientist did it, especially since he suddenly has money to pay his bill right after it happened. Mrs. Hall has had enough. She marches right up to his room and confronts him. She wants to know what he was doing to her chairs and, more importantly, how he got into a locked room.
Griffin, who was already super arrogant and quick-tempered, just snaps. He's been pushed and prodded for too long, he feels cornered, and he loses it. He yells this line, a threat that's just full of rage. He decides right then and there to show them exactly who and what he is. He starts ripping off his disguise, piece by shocking piece.
In just a few seconds, he throws off the bandages, the whiskers, the glasses, even the fake nose. The people who had gathered in the inn's bar to see what all the noise was about just stare in absolute horror. What they see is a man's body with a coat and a hat, but above the shirt collar, there's nothing, just an empty space. They are literally staring at a headless man. It's so unnatural, it just sends a wave of pure terror through the crowd.
And just at that moment, the village constable, Mr. Jaffers, shows up. He'd been called about the robbery. He's pretty shocked when he's told he has to arrest a headless man, but hey, duty is duty. He says, head or no head, he has a warrant and he's making the arrest. But as he tries to grab Griffin, the scientist starts taking off the rest of his clothes, becoming more and more invisible with every piece he drops. Jaffers is suddenly in this impossible fight, wrestling with a guy he can't even see.
You have to imagine the pure chaos of this scene. The other villagers try to help the constable, but they're getting punched and kicked by an enemy they can't see. Fists are just flying out of thin air. In the middle of it all, Griffin lands a final, heavy blow that knocks the constable out cold. He shakes himself free, and as everyone is yelling, "Hold him!" he's already gone, vanished, leaving nothing behind but chaos and terror.
And that's where we leave Griffin for now. His incredible scientific breakthrough has brought him nothing but misery, loneliness, and a life of crime. It really makes you wonder, is some knowledge just too dangerous for people to have? The story's a powerful warning about what happens when you have ambition without any morality. It really makes you think, though, if you had this incredible power, what would you do? Would you be a hero, or would you find that the temptations and the problems like Griffin did were just way too much to handle? It's definitely something to think about.